All right, to take a deeper dive into this story, we have with us three guests on the show this evening. Hanania Naftali, a senior journalist, is with us. We have Jay Engelmeyer, a publisher, the executive editor of The Judean, and Manju Seth, a former diplomat. All three of you, good evening. Thank you for joining us here. Mr. Naftali and Mr. Engelmeyer, I'd like to thank you especially for joining us. I believe both of you are joining us from Israel in this moment. Mr. Engelmeyer, if I may actually come to you first, before we actually take a dive into the discussion, if you could just tell us what the last 38 hours or so have looked like for you, for your family, where in Israel you are right now.
So right now I am in Modi'in, in my home city, which is a central city located about 25 kilometers northwest of Jerusalem and 25 kilometers southeast of Tel Aviv. When this war broke out, we were up north camping by the Jordan River with some family, and about 6 o'clock in the morning, phone started to ring. Everybody woke up. It was we were notified of what was going on. I currently have two children in the army, a son and a daughter. They're both down in the area. It's been heart wrenching. It's not easy. It's not easy when your son tells you that 10 of his friends in his unit were killed. It's something that weighs on you because, you know, not just your children, but the children of your friends and your friends' friends and your children's friends. That being said, it's also been infuriating. I've been watching the coverage from international sources and the coverage that seems to be chosen by some of the larger outlets is very, very tapered. They're not really showing the full picture. It's almost as if what happened yesterday in the morning when Hamas came in and first started to attack a festival, 3,000 people that were there, mostly kids, mostly youths. And just on a personal note, the people that were there are probably people who were very, very pro-Palestinian and probably were people who were out protesting on Saturday nights against the government. And the horrors of that, and then overtaking the base, and then not just stopping with the base, but going in towards the communities around Gaza, which I have to say, according to every international law and every international rule and every international ruling there's been, those communities are Israel proper. No one's ever disputed that, but for some reason they're called settlements and they're called occupied territory, which essentially is saying that Israel itself is occupying the entire state of Palestine, which is not correct. So I've been infuriated with the coverage of it, but at the same time, I have a personal skin in the game because I've got two children down there in harm's way.
Can I ask you a follow-up question before we go to our other guests? This question is more of me asking you to explain to our audiences. One of the things we've just shared with our audiences is that this is the first time Israel is declaring war since 1973. Now, when you live in India, you often hear of Israel, of Palestine, of conflict taking place. But just to understand the gravity of this situation in particular, the fact that this is the first time since 1973, could you explain to us more of the context?
Sure. So 1973, obviously, actually was 50 years ago to the day yesterday, 1953.
Right.
1973 was when Egypt and Syria invaded Israel. It was the on Yom Kippur, on a holiday, actually the most solemn day in the Jewish calendar. And Israel was caught off guard. They had intelligence that something was happening, but they didn't expect it to happen on that day specifically. So a lot of people were not ready. A lot of people went home to celebrate the holiday. And it turned into a full-scale invasion. About a day after Yom Kippur, the Prime Minister at the time, Golda Meir, declared war, got permission from the Knesset to declare war, and she declared war. In every event that's happened since, there hasn't been a war. It's been considered, the English word, I guess, to translate would be operation. So as an example, if rockets are being fired at communities from Gaza, and Israel decides that they want to stop those rocket fire because it's not one-off, it's not, you know, just a few here and there, it's become incessant, they'll create what's called an operation, and usually those will last 3, 4, 5 days, maybe a week tops. A war is something a little bit different. It involves a lot more mobilization. It involves a different vibe within the society itself. When 2021, when the Operation Protective Shield was going on down by Gaza, life went on as normal. Israelis went to work, their supermarkets were open, shops were open, kids went to school. This case, I went to the mall this morning, everything was closed. The only thing that was open was supermarkets, and they were packed. People were stocking up because there's a lot of things that we know we're not going to be able to get in the coming days. A lot of factories that supply foods and a lot of the import ports by Ashdod are basically cordoned off right now, so nothing has been able to come in. And so a war essentially gives the prime minister the ability to shut down the country, to give the army the ability to go ahead and do what they need to do. It's also more massive in terms of the call up. Right now, I think the number is 13,000 reservists are being called up, but from what I understand, after this war declaration, you can have 100,000 reservists being called up.
Okay, so thank you. I'm going to ask you to stay. I want to now go over to Hanania Naftali,
Sure.
who's also joining us from Israel. Hanania Naftali is a senior journalist. Sir, can I ask you now, I want to shift our conversation. We've spoken right now about what the last few hours have looked like in Israel. I just want to ask you, sir, we've been telling our audiences that as we speak, troops and tanks are moving towards the south. They're moving essentially towards the Gaza Strip. And we're learning, some reports are telling us that an invasion may be imminent. I just want to ask you, sir, what is the view across Israel? Because in that strip of land, you of course have 2.5 million people. Some possibly support Hamas in a large capacity. Some are civilians. We know that the Prime Minister of Israel has told people to leave. But multiple media outlets are pointing out that people don't have anywhere to leave to if they are from Palestine and they are within that strip. Can you tell us what the public perspective on this is?
Absolutely. So I have to say that, after being attacked, this was an attack on a sovereign country.
Right.
A barrage of rockets, thousands of rockets, sent millions of Israelis to the bomb shelters. So just imagine what life is like for families here, for my wife and I, who are, as we are doing the interview right now, I need to keep an ear open for possible sirens. So this is an attack on a sovereign country. And in the same way, India does not accept any terrorist attack on its sovereign country, as we saw in the 26/11 Mumbai attacks. We are facing right now a radical Islamist attack, and Israel has every right to defend its citizens. It's not just a right, it's a duty to make sure that civilians are safe. So Israel will do whatever it needs to do in order to restore peace, restore order. We have seen that the Middle East recognizes the fact that Israel is not the problem, but rather a partner for peace, as we saw 4 Arab countries making peace with Israel. And actually, many viewers might be surprised that they are actually united with Israel against radical Islam, against what Hamas represents. Now, given the Gaza Strip, I actually served in the Armored Corps, and in the 2014 Gaza War Protective Edge Operation, I was sent into the Gaza Strip, and we were given strict commands to not harm any Palestinian civilians, as the senior heads of the Israel Defense Forces also said that our enemy is not the Palestinian people, but the Hamas terrorist organization. So you can see this difference, that Israel targets terrorists while Hamas targets civilians. And don't believe my words. Look, when Hamas infiltrated the Gaza Strip, they immediately ran for Israeli communities, kidnapped civilians. So we have every right to defend our territory.